Hi there, welcome back. This is Thinking Out Loud, presented to you here exclusively by the SaltWire Network, and I'd invite you to find our YouTube channel, SaltWire on YouTube, and like, subscribe, do whatever you have to do there to be a part of this conversation in a broader sense. I have commuted back and forth from my home on the South Shore to Halifax for more than a decade, and I've always used diesel cars because they're more energy efficient, and some debate about whether they pollute more. But what really is disturbing these days is that $2.50 a liter for diesel. I don't know if you've had to fill up your fuel tank in your furnace or for your furnace. There's going to be an even bigger hit. This was fairly new, just happened earlier today. Nova Scotians are looking at carbon tax hikes. The federal government is imposing these. They'll go into effect on both gasoline, diesel, I assume, and heating oil in July of next year, 14 and 17 cents a liter. That's a lot of money. And, there's a lot of conversation. It's been very much political, and you'll hear more about the repercussions and perhaps the reaction from the Liberals, the NDP, and obviously the Progressive Conservatives here in Nova Scotia. But there was another announcement that happened just yesterday that there's a federal grant being made available here in Atlantic Canada. We are some of the highest usages percentage-wise or per capita of heating oil to heat our homes. And this is a way that they'll offer for people who hit an income threshold. Part of this $250 million that's being offered, part of a oil to heat pump affordability grant up to $5,000. And to find out a little bit more about what are the implications, and to perhaps get a different take from someone who's invested in this. He is now the energy efficiency coordinator with the Ecology Action Center. It's a real pleasure to speak again with Chris Benjamin. Chris, so good to see you again.
Great to see you, Sheldon. Thanks for having me.
The first announcement, the first one I referenced, the carbon tax. I know previous coordinators have talked or spoken to me about that, and Ecology Action Center is in favor of carbon taxes. I'm pretty sure I got that clearly from the conversations I've had. Any thoughts on this announcement coming today?
I would just say in general, I think it's a really hot topic in Nova Scotia right now, with, as you mentioned, escalating fuel prices and inflation in general. And I want to be clear that, the big debate is if we don't allow for things like carbon taxes, how do we afford all the green commitments that Nova Scotia has made? And that's kind of that's been a really hot debate in Parliament recently. And our stance is that the journey to a zero carbon economy should not be on the backs of poor Nova Scotians. And so there has to be a way to kind of mitigate the harm of escalating fuel costs on poor Nova Scotians. So, and I don't think that conversation has happened to the level of sophistication that it needs to be. That just a straight flat cap or rate cap, or those kind of things, they are blunt instruments, and you're protecting the very wealthy as much as you're protecting the very poor. And it's time maybe we start considering more sophisticated ways to go about that. Different tiers or levels of protection for different sectors of the economy. So yes, pro carbon tax, but to look at things, how do we ensure? And part of that is investing in efficiency, which kind of leads into the heat pump question. But the more efficient we are, the less we end up spending on our energy. So to make those efficiency programs as accessible as possible to low-income Nova Scotians is a great way to do that.
And I know that there was a time just up until a few weeks ago, Nova Scotia Power had a program where you could apply to have a heat pump financed through them. Obviously, this is a federal program that's not quite yet rolled out. It won't be until the new year. And then again, I'm not entirely sure what the application process will be. Of course, the challenge then will be finding a piece of equipment and an installer to do so if there's a lot of demand on this. Yeah. But to the point of efficiency, and whether it's through insulating our homes, I know there have been programs to make our homes more easier to heat or keep cool in the summer, that those are programs that have been promoted for quite some time with through Efficiency Nova Scotia. So Chris, what was Ecology Action Center's thought on this federal program looking to perhaps ease some of those capital costs?
It is great to see that. It's great to see the investment and the fact that it is for low-income families. Going under the median household income, which is at about $53,000 for a household in Nova Scotia on average. Of course, there's even among low income, there's a lot of range there, and it depends on whether you're rural, urban, what part of the province you live in. But again, these instruments tend to follow a formula, so they have to figure it out somehow. So this is how they've gone about it. It's great to see that investment. You mentioned other means like insulation, and the point I want to make, I guess, is that every building is unique and different. And a key thing I'd really like to see as much of as possible is knowledge transfer or assistance to the individual. So every house being different, if I'm on an oil furnace and I want to get off it, what I really need is guidance on how to do that. And the heat pump, it's a great tool. It's very efficient, but getting from an oil furnace to solely heat pumps, first of all, it's not always feasible in every home, and it's a long process, and there's a lot to it. It doesn't matter what your source of energy is if you're leaking it out into the great outdoors all the time, as our dads used to say, you're heating the great outdoors, and it's like you have to properly insulate. You have to have a good building envelope. So it's something most homeowners don't fully understand, and it's including me, and it's something we have to wrap our head around and learn a lot of new knowledge as we go through the process of moving towards. And also our climate is quite unique because we have often some very hot days in the summer and often some extremely cold weather, as well as stormy days in the winter. So it's not always feasible to completely get rid of other sources of heating. Sometimes just baseline electric heat can really be an important supplement for what the heat pump can't do. So again, every household being unique, it's really important. What I hope is that there's a lot of support that will go with this program to help people get through the process and learn what they need to know, because there's a lot of great supplements out there now. And again, that's great to see. And there's a lot of great programs, but it's navigating all the different options. This new grant is up to $5,000. That's probably not enough for most people to get from, that's not even enough to buy one heat pump these days. So, and as you said, finding one and finding the installer to go through it. So there's a lot to it. And but there's matching programs. There's Efficiency Nova Scotia. There's other places where you can find matching funding, and you could make it happen feasibly. It's just a matter of having people to help you through that process.
Is there a role for Ecology Action Center to help with that education?
We certainly try, but it's me and one colleague doing all that work, so we can't do it alone. But we're working with churches. We're working with Efficiency Nova Scotia. We're working with various institutions. We're working with an owner of a low-rise apartment building right now, fairly low-income area, and on a potential retrofit there. So we are doing a lot of this type of work, and we are a resource for sure. Definitely look us up and contact us for information, and we will try to provide it and steer you in the right direction. But what I hope is that there's enough investment in these types of programs to support, not only to give, okay, here's $5,000, but to give people the guidance they need.
Well, Chris, we'll point people to the ecologyactioncenter.ca for more details. We kind of cracked the door open on talking about commercial buildings and commercial structures, but I think that's a longer term conversation. Something else for, we're talking more about consumers right now and homeowners or people who are in an environment where they're somehow paying for the heat that they're using. So anything we can do to help them not only save energy, well, with that, it naturally follows that they're going to save money too. So we thank you certainly for your input. Again, Energy Efficiency Coordinator with the Ecology Action Center. It's a new role for Chris. And Chris Benjamin, thank you again for your time.
Thanks so much, Sheldon.